Hello my crafty friends, Corrine here from Corrine Crafts. I hope you are well. Now, as we all know, I really struggle with totally white cards. So I've had a go at getting quite white, but just with a hint of pink. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? So we've got some white texture paste on white card. We've got some white flowers with some pink in the middle. I've used these lovely little bits. We've got some pink around here, and then I've just dusted this vellum butterfly with a little bit of pink ink to bring it, all together. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Nice little aperture in there with the sentiment. I love this. I'm going to show you now how I made it, including how to make these gorgeous flowers. So this card that I'm going to make now is sort of my attempt at doing an all white card, but I never quite get there with an all white card. I always end up putting a little bit of colour on, but never mind, we'll go with it. Now I'm using a 5.5 inch square of watercolour card, and the reason I'm using 5.5 inches is because I need a layer underneath, and that's going to be 5 3/4 inches, and you can get both of those out of one sheet of A4. So that is the only reason I chose the size I did, but if you want to do this as rectangle, that would work equally well. So my card base is 6.5 by 6.5, so I've got, as you know very often, I've got that 1 inch gap between the card topper and the card base. Now you'll see on my card base, always 10th fold is why I've done, and I've just put a piece of pink card. So that's my ode to a little bit of colour. We're going to bring that pink through the rest of the card. So just in case you want to remember, 5.5 inch square by 6.5 inch square. So those are my measurements. Okay, so you've already seen I put this piece of watercolour card here, and I found one of my just regular nesting dies, nothing fancy, just a straightforward foundation nesting dies, and I put this one in the middle. It actually measures 1.5 inches from there to there, so this is 5.5 inches, so I've got 3 inches there, so this must be 2.5 inch square. I'm trying to work it out quickly. It must be. So we've got 3 inches there, and that's 5.5, so that must be a 2.5 inch square. So it just felt right to me. So with that on here, I'm going to get my cutting plate. I don't need the shim. I'm going to pop that into the middle, and also being 5.5 inches, it fits into the embossing folder, so I can use my manual machine. So so that's another good reason for going with this size measurement. Lots of good reasons. We always come across lots. So that's going to cut across there. So pop that out of here, and then we can slide that tape off, and I've got that. So now I've got this lovely aperture on here. There we are. So that's going to go, and we're going to use this. So what you need to do is you need to get a little bit done so that it can be drying. So I'm going to pop my square onto a mat, and I've got myself a stencil. So I've got my stencil, and I've just because I can be a little bit cack-handed with what I'm doing, I've just masked off with a bit of regular masking tape. I'll put it on the comments in below, just to highlight a bit, and that bit fits absolutely perfectly on there. I did it for that much before, didn't I? Right, yes, that's what I forgot what I did then. So I'm going to pop that there. So just lifted it up from the bottom, just make sure it's on. There we go. Let's come like about there. There we go. And I'm just going to get a little bit of satin tape, because it's going onto card, so I don't want it to mark. One piece there, and then one piece on there. Now I'm going to grab my white texture paste. So this is the opaque texture paste from Tim Holtz, which I really like, and I need a spatula. Now ideally you do this, what I'm about to show you, in 2 different stages. You do the first one, let it dry, and then do the second one. I'm going to have to do it very carefully because I need to do it all in one go, and I haven't got time to stop and come back. So bit of texture paste on my palette knife, and then I'm going to pop that onto here, and then just spread. So you can see why I've masked off the stencil, because it just makes life so much easier. I can just go in without worrying about it too much, and I go in there. I want quite a nice rough texture, so I'm not even going to smooth that off at the top. So I can then lift that, and I've got gorgeous white on white texture. Now this is where you have to be careful, so I'm going to take this bit and I'm going to pop it onto here, and I'm just going to hold it because I don't want, now like I said, ideally you would leave that to dry, so I'm just going to hold, oops, just put a finger in that, hold that there. I'm just lifting that up, so it might look a little bit awkward, but like I say, if you've got time, do the first one, leave it to dry, and then come in and do the second one. But we just need to pop it on. There we go, and then lift off. There we are. That looks gorgeous, doesn't it? Really, really pretty. Get that stencil in a water bath as quickly as you can before it sets. Now, what you need to do now is you need to leave that to dry as much as you can before we need to do the next bit. So that's a good opportunity for me to make my flowers. You know I love making flowers, so let's make some flowers. So I'm just going to do them all with one die set. So I'm going to use this one and this centre, just some dies I've got, and then I've got this piece here. So all I've got, and I'm not going to do multiple layers, is I've cut a couple of those out. I've cut one of those. Now I've only got one centre, so I better just quickly cut. Have I only got one centre? Oh no, I've got another centre there. There we go. So I've cut two of those, and I'm not going to go fancy and do double layers. We're just going to keep it really simple. So you can see that one's been cut like that. That's been cut that. That's from one of my previous signature collections, but I really like it. And there's some centres. So let's put those onto a mat. There we are. Right. I'm going to turn them over. I want a couple of ball tools. And these are going to... Oh, no, I need to ink them first, don't I? Oh, I nearly forgot. Nearly forgot. So let's put those on there. Let's ink them before I forget. Right, so I'm going to grab some pink tulip. And I love these little mini daubers. I just pick them up when I go to craft shows. I've never found them online. I just find them sort of in... what do you call them, in sort of end of line bins when I'm at craft shows. So I just get them, and then they're sponges. I just really find them quite handy because you can just do things like centres of flowers. So just put a little bit in there, and then what I also want to do, ink on here, and then just tickle the ends of the petals. It's not much on there, but it's just enough. Just tickle the end of there, just like that. Really, really simple colouring. And remember, you're going to be blending so things look better, but don't overthink it. Right, now I can bring my mat back in. Turn them over on the back. I'm going to get this ball tool, and I'm just going to show it. Now, it will flatten some of that gorgeous embossed detail that you've got on there, but I'm not overly concerned. I can still see a bit, but I wanted the shape. To me, the shape is more important than the emboss. And I'm just going to get my smallest ball tool and just go round the very, very edge. There we are. Just round like that. Just like that. And there we go. All the way. Just a little bit of shape. Then I'm going to turn them over a third size, and I'm just going to shape them like that. Sometimes once you've done that, you sometimes just want to go back in and do a little bit more shaping. There we are. Right, like that. And these ones, it's just a case of taking them and shaping like that. That's all it takes. So then what I want to do is pop these into the centre. So you want the smallest bit of glue. But the glue is key, because glue is what's going to help you to shape your flowers. You see, that was almost too much glue. And then the next one, just on there. I mean, if you've been watching for a while, you know I absolutely adore making flowers. They are just, you'll see a lot of flowers and a lot of butterflies on my channel. I'm not going to apologise for it. They just make me happy. It's just how I like to craft. So Good thing I've used a glue that dries clear, because that's just oozed a little bit. And that is all I do. Now, I will pop a little bit of tonic Nouveau drops in the centre, but because I'm about to put these on, I'm not going to put the tonic drops on just yet. I will do that in a minute. Then I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this. So put that in there. So all I'm going to do with these, now you could use your daubers on the end, but I've got some, I don't even know what brand these are, because I've covered it up for when I was doing a TV show. Pearlescent ones, cosmic coloured pearlescents. Yeah, when I was doing a TV show and we weren't selling them, I had to cover up the name because I wanted to use them. Oops, it's a little bit stringy. It's quite old. There we go. Key is tiny little beads of, this one's really, this is so old. I really need some more of this sort of thing. I could do with replacing all my pearl drops, but just use what I've got. Just keep getting rid of the stringy bits. Just like that. And then just, so I need to give this, ooh, maybe half an hour to dry. Just so those, but I just think that contrast is absolutely gorgeous. It just really, really works. And the pink and white looks beautiful. There we go. That's all I would do. That is so old, but it's still working. So let's take that off that scrap bit card, and then you can see, doesn't that look lovely? Really like that. So again, that's another piece that needs to go and dry. I'm amassing quite a bit. So I have got this one that is nice and dry, and I put a couple of little bits of pearl drops on there. Now, to do the sentiment, all you need to do is line it up, grab your sentiment. So I've got something like this. Put your sentiment where you want it to be. Take the top one off, and then take it to your stamping platform. Pop it on like that. I can't do this because I've got something actually on the other side. And then lift it up. And then when you stamp, it's going to be in the right place. Okay? And that is what I've done on there. But I can't do it because it's got the pearl drops on, but I wanted those to dry. So that's all I do. That's how I do my lining up. So that now can go onto the card base, which I moved out of the way. Let's put that on here. So this one hasn't got lots of layers. It's only got a few. Sometimes you don't need lots. And we can put that on here. You know, when you're prepping them and you're putting them together and you think, oh, I've got lots to do to this. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, and it's ready. And it's done. I love that. Again, you could change this to whatever colour works for your recipient. You know who you're giving your cards to. So, you know, you could do this in pinks, purples. You can even get away. I think blue flowers look absolutely stunning. So, you know, do whatever colour works for who you're giving this to. You just need to press down, make sure that glue is gluing. There we go. That's stuck nicely now. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is bring this piece in. Now, I'm not going to put that flat. I think we need to raise it a bit. And I think I might go mid-height. So I'm not going to use, so I'm going to use this one that's just a little bit higher than that normal Sticks 2 one I've got. So let's turn that over and let's put, I think if I go down the centre of that gap, it should hold it enough because it's quite a nice firm foam tape. About as straight as I don't know what that, isn't it? It's a good job nobody can see it, can they? It just hides once it's on the card. So we can put that like that. Take, that one could have done with being a bit further over, but never mind. It's on now. Pop that on. But this foam tape will hold it lovely and firm. Really nicely. Put that on there. A little bit of PVA on the back. Not my best tacky glue. I always do it with a little bit of PVA. And then we go. Bring in my card base, turn it over, and doesn't that white on white look lovely? Really pleased with that. Isn't that pretty? Now if you don't like it, you could just put a little bit of inking behind. That is not straight. That's why I like putting a bit of glue on my foam tape. I find that because of where I'm sitting to do these videos, I can't always see. I'm going to have to stand up. So hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. There we go. Oh no. That's much better. Press that down now. Isn't that lovely? Really, really effective. So let's have a look at what we've got in the way of flowers and foliage. So we're not going in with green foliage. We're just going in with our white foliage with those lovely pink drops. And I'm going to glue it using my 3D glue because I've got all the texture here. I just think it's needed. So let's put one of these on. And I don't need to cover up the sentiment. I need to be careful. Put that like that. And one like that. Now, do I want... I'm just going to see what that looks like with 3. Just because otherwise you're not going to see that texture, are you? I think 3 might be enough because you wouldn't do 4, you'd have to go for 5. So really I think that should do. I think. Now do I might trim that down. Let's trim that to there and then put that one. There we go. Oh, that's looking really pretty, isn't it? So just to show you how I would do those centres, get your Tonic Nouveau drops and put those in. Now these have just gone a little bit flat, so I'm just going to put a little bit more in. There we go. Like I say, I put some on here. Now the only thing I need to finish, so this card looks a little bit unbalanced. We always like to try and make our cards balance out. So it's got quite a lot, and can you still see the birthday? Yeah, it's got nothing up here. So all I've done is I've taken my Sizzix Sofa Gillar butterflies, and I've cut them at 2 out of vellum, and I've just added a little bit of the exact same pink ink using that dauber down the centres. So I thought what I could do is let's just, I don't know that I need 1 or 2, and the reason I'm using vellum is it's just that little bit lighter, and I know when I do use vellum everyone really quite likes it because it's like, oh, I've got all this vellum and I don't use it. So hopefully it's giving you some ideas on what to do with it. So let's put 1 on. Don't worry about it being the glue being visible because we're just putting the tiniest small amount on, and we can put that on here. Now, do I want 1 layer or 2 layers? I'm not putting 2 butterflies on, so let's just fold that. No, it doesn't add anything extra. Doesn't add anything extra. There you go. Now, just a minute. I prefer it that way. Turn it around. Why would that make a difference? But it does. That made such a difference. In my mind, anyway. Yes, much prefer it that way. It feels more included. There we go. How about that? Oh, look at that card. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I've got to be careful. My Nouveau drops are still wet as I'm lifting up my card. They're moving. There we are. How about that? There we go. And I've nearly done it. An all white card with just that hint of pink. If you don't want to use the pink, then you could have put white centres on your flowers, put white Nouveau drops just here, and then another matte and layer of white, and it would look lovely. But I really do like this texture. And I know I've covered an awful lot of it up, but it's the fact that it's knowing that it's there. There's no glue on that. It was going to fall out. when I've moved it. Let's put some proper amount of glue on there. There we go, that's better. That's holding firm. And as always, I never glue down this end, just glue them at the base and then it holds. There you go, let me know what you think of that. I think that is really, really pretty. I really do like that one. So there we are. Thank you for watching. And if it does inspire you to have a go at making one, something like that, then please, please do let me know. I'd love to see what you make. And that's it for this video. So again, hopefully a nice little quick one once I've edited all the little bits out. Again, as always, a link to another video on the left and a link to my subscribe on the right. As always, there'll be things to click on in the description down below. Anything you do click on really, really helps. So please, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all again next time. Please let me know what you think of this card, and until next time, bye for now.